Amazing the stories we tell ourselves in our head. They're very powerful in shaping how we feel, how we see, how we decide and behave. And perhaps the most powerful stories are the ones we tell ourselves about ourselves. These shape the very foundation of our existence, the state of our being. As a point of consciousness, a soul, the stories I tell myself about myself affect my well-being, my power, my capacities. I could actually have many qualities and capacities, but these could become locked, unavailable, depending on the story I hold with respect to myself. Quiet time with myself is an opportunity to dive deep inside and start to explore what stories I hold about myself. And most importantly, is the story I'm carrying based on the belief that I am intrinsically good, intrinsically worthy, inherently pure. Perhaps my story has twists and turns, but let the beginning and end be a peaceful and happy one. Because there's so much power in these stories I hold. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti, good evening, and welcome to Interview with the Raj Yogi. Tonight is part 2 of an accurate account of who I am. And there was one question that came up last week near the tail end that really stayed with me, so that's why I was inspired to have a second part. But just this topic, just it came from accurate remembrance. We had shared that last week, and when it comes to just remembering like proper details, it's interesting in spirituality. It seems like it has become an exception. I think we talked about that, like imagining something. But if I were to ask you, so how was your day yesterday? Can you give me an account of what happened? And we don't make it up. We don't visualize things. We don't imagine things. So I feel that that was a part of the reason why I wanted to explore more this week, because I wanted to ask what your feelings were in terms of the original students, for them to share an accurate account of soul consciousness. What was it that 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 they had so much impact? Could you share about that in terms of, again, like what has happened with our ideas of spirituality, where visualization, imagination doesn't seem to be touching on the realm of when we're talking about reality, when we're talking about accurate remembrance?
I don't know if this will connect to your question, but one of the concepts that we work with in this spiritual practice, and I can't for certain necessarily say what the original students were doing or experiencing, obviously, but one of the concepts that we work with and that they worked with as well could be described as stories. We say account, but also this idea of a story. And there's an incredible relationship between account, stories, and beliefs. We like the word account because it seems to suggest accuracy, which I know is part, whereas stories and beliefs sounds a little bit more vague, flimsy, and perhaps prone to imagination, but they actually are very, very connected. I always found it interesting when someone's giving the account. For example, I have two other siblings, and we've all been in the same situations. One of the siblings has a photographic memory. The other one is very, very concerned about accuracy, and I'm probably the most whimsical of them all. So it's quite fascinating when we get together and try to remember the account of something that we have all been involved in. And I've noticed that there is a kind of accuracy in how everyone is sharing. Even though I have the worst memory of the three, they are always surprised at what I do remember. They say, I don't remember that. I said, no, that definitely, what tends to happen with my intellect is remembering things that have a profound impression on my experience. It might be just 1 second long. And the other one, yes, the middle one will remember sort of the flow of events, but they will have gaps. They always say, wow, I don't remember that. And of course, the oldest one with the photographic memory is kind of remembering things in great detail that are connected to areas of interest that they have. So the cars everyone drove, the clothes they wore, but those aren't things that are of interest to me. So I won't remember those things. Are all of us imagining? No. But it's so connected to what our interest is, what attainment is. It's not imagination. And it's affecting how we function from that moment onwards. So I think with the original jewels, what was very important to them was to become benefactors, instruments for God, instruments for good. And so the stories that they wanted to remember were ones that would support that kind of function. And we use the word remember because they are accurate, they are based on facts. They have to be very, very deep to have that kind of power to make them instruments for good. But it's so interesting. What I was thinking about today with respect to this is I've noticed that as humanity moves along and, if you will, becomes darker and darker, yes, they might be accurate, but they're so dark in their stories. Um, Whereas we actually have to be very careful with our mind and our thoughts and our stories. They really need to focus on inherent goodness. It's not imagination. Many will feel it's idealistic or naive, but it's actually based on the inherent goodness of the soul. So it's asking, what do you believe? Because that's going to determine the types of accounts that you choose to embrace. Do you believe that we are inherently good as spiritual beings? Then what kind of stories would be accurate to support that kind of recognition? So it is a blend of accounts, stories, and beliefs. And I think that might have something to do with what they were experiencing.
It's just interesting you're sharing because it seems like that gives some merit that everyone sees things differently based on whatever it was significant to them. But as you're saying, it may not necessarily be relevant or perhaps beneficial for everyone else, like on a universal way.
Yeah. Um, if I look at all of them, it's quite interesting. So the stories that the oldest one holds the details definitely do not help them in their day to day life at this time. The middle one is so obsessed with accuracy and being right that it's now she's annoying to herself. so so yeah, she can correct people. No, that's not right. That's not how it happened. But that's not resonating with who she wants to become. She might get the story right, but it's not helping her to emerge what she wants to become, who she believes she is. And for me, it's always what's impressed on me is the uplifting or inspiring aspects of stories. That's what I tend to remember. I don't like the horror and the, but really what's uplifting, what is motivating, that's what tends to impress on me. That's very important for me. And I find the stories that are being created now, which tend to have very sad endings, and I don't find we say they're accurate, they're realistic, but they actually are not aligned with what humanity needs at this time, which is emerging that goodness.
So perhaps you may have to clarify a bit because I can see where this runs a very fine line. As you were saying, it's not imagining something, it's not just trying to, I'll use that word reframe just so I can see things in better light, but I'm just sort of lying to myself. But I feel what you're sharing about is a capacity of when there's accumulation of purity. Um, so before I was going to ask you to share, listening to this evening's chit chat with one of our senior students, having a little chit chat with another student, they were talking about, a project comes along. Um, it's not really helpful to say, oh, it's not going to work out or I'm going to have this experience. And if I heard her correctly, it's good to say no, like it's going to work out or whatever it was. It's more about my quality of experience that, I will see some good in this situation. Where is that line of just being positive and peppy and, trying to find the silver lining to something, which I'm sure that's meaningful, but when it's just something that's fictitious or when you actually are denying that perhaps there's something that needs to be addressed, it seems like such a gray zone.
I guess what I feel the bottom line is it's completely in our hands to create a happy ending, if you will. And that I know sounds very rose colored glasses and naive, but actually, how everything unfolds is completely in our hands. It comes back to those beliefs. The stories that we deal with in the spiritual study all begin with not just once upon a time, but they begin with eternally you are a soul. That's how the story starts. If someone doesn't believe that's the start of the story, then their story is going to take a very different direction. But if one is practicing, when you asked about the original jewels, they all accepted this as the beginning of the story. Eternally, I am a soul. Once the story starts that way, how it unfolds and how it's going to end, which is really all we care about, is really in our hands. And there we can see, because of the potential of the soul, because what it means to say I am a soul, it sort of unlocks these wonderful capacities that, I mean, I'm not just imagining, or I'm just not, not just hoping for the best or trying to reframe or rose-colored glasses or naive, but I'm actually aligning with what it means to start the story as eternally I am a soul. That is the most accurate understanding of the self. So I'm aligning with that. So now how I shape the direction of the story is very profound.
So part of the reason why, again, this really stayed with me in these last couple of weeks was the impact when you speak of something that is the truth. And of course, that's, there's my truth, your truth. And you've shared before, I'm sure it was in one of the interviews, but we've had actual experiences with someone who has memory loss. But if you genuinely knew who they are and you're speaking to them, just knowing who they are, right? It's nothing contrived, but it's also part of it is really encouraging to remember. It's a very different experience. It feels like there's something invisible that is behind the words, because there's a vibration, there's an intention, whatever, the awareness perhaps. So that's why I was thinking about this, you experience reality and you speak from reality, so different from, you theorize it, you talk about it, it's so different. And how does that all work? Because it's so abstract, like it's like as if there's some sort of vibration behind the words that can really actually create such impact. And we hear of the original students, the impact they had. They don't do like 2-hour courses. Sometimes they're just telling someone, you are a soul, and it wakes someone up. Like, how on earth does that work?
A couple of things, I guess, to consider or suggest. First off, unless there might be mental health issues, but I've noticed that souls who have memory loss is clinically diagnosed often have a more accurate memory than those who do not, in the sense of how they're experiencing things. They're actually remembering what is eternal. So even this morning, I was talking to someone in a meeting, and their mother is at that point in their life. And so when they show up, what they said to them is, "You're such a beautiful friend." Now, this is her daughter. But what she kept saying from with such sincerity was, "You're such a beautiful friend." Now she's gone beyond that temporary relationship of mother-daughter. She's moved into, without any conscious effort, she's moved into the spiritual relationship of soul to soul. It was a very beautiful thing to say, "You're such a beautiful friend." So I think she's actually more aware of what's going on. And some get disturbed saying, "Oh my gosh, she doesn't see me as a daughter," but wow, she sees you as a beautiful friend. Is that so bad? Unless I have attachment or I want something from them. I need them to see me as, but on their side, they're completely happy. And it's not a false story. They're recognizing what's actually in front of them. So yeah, I think it does test what kind of accounts or stories that we have, and are they based on temporary things? Are they based on what is eternal? I know I was going to say something else, but I can't remember what the rest of your sharing. Sorry.
Well, perhaps how I remember when I was learning in astrophysics, and you learn about wavelengths, energy, and vibration. So, like, just so a little bit of backstory for those who are listening, like light, that can be measured, and depending on the wavelength, it has certain colors. Radio waves, gamma rays, they all again have certain vibrations. But, it's fascinating that we don't need science to feel. You can, well, I think it has a lot to do with how quiet and what one's inner story is and what they've gone through. But sometimes we can't feel when something is actually fake, when something actually is sincere. So the vibration piece, it's powerful that we're all into science, but at the same time, you can't measure when something is real, but it has such impact.
Yes, truth and purity, they have very good connection. Truth and purity are great powers, very, very profound powers. And so, and they have a vibration. And it's not, yes, you could say my truth, your truth, but quite frankly, there's just a truth. Truth is absolute and eternal and incredibly, incredibly powerful. And this was very important to those original jewels to recognize and align and live the truth. So if someone's being fake, truth is still very powerful. So if I am around someone who is not being truthful, yes, I might be able to feel that vibration, but I also might be able to feel why they're not being truthful, what's truly going on here, which is a very important story. We kind of, just to say they're being fake and to dismiss them, isn't the whole story. And what's far more interesting, again, that inherently good purpose is why are they not being truthful? And so if I'm able to kind of feel the vibration of truth that they're afraid or they feel threatened or they're insecure, whatever the reason, that's very important rather than just stopping at, yes, I can feel the vibration of falsehood, but let me listen a little bit more closely to get the full account. Because again, the soul is intrinsically good. That's the truth that we're working with. So, what's happened? What's the story that they are not being truthful at that time?
There was something that you shared at the beginning that really stayed with me, was that when you were sharing about your two siblings, that everyone there is accuracy in what they're sharing. Perhaps it's not necessarily what's significant to what they can recall is relevant to everyone. And I wonder if maybe this is where absolute truth is that where everyone says your truth, my truth, in the sense that it's colored by their journey. But the Supreme Soul, and the reason why this has come up, this topic was like, it's inspiring for us that we want to feel something real and to be able to impart that on others too, empower others. Like, I'm sure nobody wants to have like a false sense of what reality is, and then you propagate that. I'm sure that doesn't really feel something meaningful. So perhaps, I know we're running out of time, but just if you could share a bit more about like that's universal, to be able to see everything in the accurate way with respect to it's actually resonating with everyone. When you shared about, before, once upon a time, the eternal truth is that we are a soul. And I felt that that was so meaningful, because to tell someone you're actually a good person, you're inherently good, I don't know if that would really work because of their temporary story. Maybe conscious or subconscious is constantly riding on them.
So this brings us back to the original students. They were able to experience the true story. They were able to experience the truth. And because of that, they accumulate incredible power. And we have so many stories of how, through the force of that power, not what they necessarily said, but through the force of that power, that's actually a sign that they were absorbing the truth, is that any soul who came in front of them, whatever their religion, felt very safe and secure, and actually was deeply affected or touched by not just their sharing, but by their presence. In other words, their presence brought out the best in others. So that is a sign of someone who is able to experience the truth. They develop that power to bring out the best in others. This, of course, is the secret behind God. So, that being God is able to, their function is to bring out our pure selves. And the information that comes from a divine source will actually accept because of the power of that divine source. So that's a sign that I actually am taking in a true account. I actually am dealing with the eternal, is to have that kind of effect on people. It's not, we say, well, they're not going to believe it because of what's going on in their head. Actually, someone who has the force of truth is able to heal what's going on in the head of somebody else so that they're liberated to actually begin on that journey, return to their best self. So, we have so many stories about that. I mean, the classic, the most profound is the soul that came to assassinate Brahma Baba. I mean, that's a pretty dark place to start from, and yet he couldn't do it, and he completely changed his life. So, yeah, it's the force, the power, the very good power of truth. I guess that's the accuracy, is it brings out the best.
Wow, I could go on and on. It's such a powerful topic about just vibration, the impact of vibration. But we will just have a reflection, Shanti.
We all enjoy, when it comes to our own lives, a happy ending. And that is the promise of spirituality. This journey of turning inwards, going deep inside to a place that some might call the subconscious, the very depths of my subconscious silence, where there resides an ancient, ancient story. It is the true account about myself. And at the right time, I'm pulled to want to go to that place and unlock that memory. It is the key to that happy ending. And to do that, I very naturally start to orient towards the truth, towards God, to guide me on that journey inwards, rediscovering that ancient story, that key to my own happy ending, or perhaps happy beginning. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti. So thank you for joining with us this evening. So a warm reminder, next week on Saturday, we have our next Learn About Meditation at the Academy, 12:15 to 1:30. Registration is, is welcome, but you can drop in if you just suddenly feel inspired to come. And I don't think there's anything else upcoming that we can announce except just our usual drop-in sessions. Oh yes, I was to let you know that we will have to take a pause with our interviews for a few weeks actually. So let me just looking ahead. Wow, it's going to be like 5 weeks because Sister Judy and myself will be away. But we will still have sessions going on. All of the online meditation sessions will be happening on site at the Inner Peace Center the Mondays, which is a bit of a meditation and a little bit of spiritual chit chat. Again at 6:30, 7:30. And our Hindi sessions for the public as well on Wednesdays. And I believe there's a Raja Yoga full course in Hindi happening next month as well. So all of that is actually available on the website. And of course, Learn About Meditation in February would be the last Saturday of the month. That's February 22nd. And so please visit the website or Eventbrite for all of those sessions. And if there's anything, just any public programs coming up, of course, we'll make sure to announce those. So please join with our previous interview sessions. If you have topics, we're happy to explore those when we return. Shanti.